Up next is STTR Showcase with Anissa Lumpkin.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the STTR Showcase of the Air and Industry Impact Days. Thank you again to the Wright Brothers Institute for hosting this wonderful week of innovation and information and resource sharing that we're having today. So good morning. My name is Anissa Lumpkin. I am the lead program manager for the Air Force Cyber and STTR program. You've heard a lot about that this morning. So now we're going to kick off the STTR Showcase. It's wonderful to always engage with universities and research institutions. For 2020 has produced virtual pitch days. We've produced agility prize, specific focus areas for the Air Force Cyber program. And we've seen tremendous advocacy from our Air Force programs with projects across the national spectrum of our national defense strategy. Our outreach initiatives to Air Force programs, to work small businesses, to work with HBCUs, our Appalachian universities and regions have ensured we're maintaining solid business connections across our national defense from our past performers, keeping them engaged in the process, and also bringing in new suppliers of critical research and technology for the future. So the future is bright, right, for the Air Force programs. Under the banner of Air Force Ventures, the Air Force Cyber and STTR program will continue to build partnerships with acquisition programs, warfighter organizations, and innovators. And as these Air Force experiments continue to grow, and as we continue to learn new ways of doing business and new processes, we are equally dedicated to taking continuous improvement and course correction. So if you see anything there where you're like, hey, this is a great idea, this is innovative, that's what we're all about. And so we really look forward to having you today. So come join us as we seek to expand the growing influence of small business and universities within the Air Force. And so with that, I would love to go ahead and move into our next session for our STTR Showcase. It's going to be a great rest of the day from universities, their partnerships, small businesses, as well as our small business office from across our Air Force's nation today, from our Air Force Lifecycle Management Center, our Air Force Sustainment Centers, Air Force Research Laboratory, and the other product centers that participate in our Cyber and STTR program. And so with that said, I will move it over to the next panel session.
And now, STTR Success Story Panel.
Hi, my name is Steve Flaherty. I'm founder and CEO of Nicotech. Nicotech is a sustainable infrastructure company. Our primary technology right now is a solution that we call Hot Patch on Demand. It helps recover rapidly from deficient pavements, whether that be from weather or from enemy fire, and allows us to keep our Air Force bases critically operational. And so it's a patch solution for, what you would call a pothole or other pavement deficiency that is rapidly done on the base and allows those runways to stay operational. So it's a fancy way of having a fast pothole repair system and allows it to be done in all climates across all geographic areas and be done right on base inside the fence. So we have taken this through a phase 1 STTR, completed that earlier in 2020, and then subsequently have gone on to do a phase 2 STTR through the AFWERX program. And partway through our phase 1, we found Apex actually through one of the other cohorts members that was with us had mentioned Apex to us, and we kind of were intrigued at what it was, and they were critical in our transition from our phase 1 to our phase 2. The information and the education that they provided about how a military contract is put together. For us, it was our first time. So being able to get their expertise, let them see what we were doing and how we adapt that as we progress through the program was invaluable. So the finding of that, helped us not only set the tone for that product and allowed us to advance that product and, gain the military as a customer under contract, but it allowed us to really put a stakehold on our startup and allowed us to kind of get the path to success and help curb the threat of the entrepreneurial valley of death. So by having a paying customer that is also the U.S. military, it also gives us a clout for being able to work with our airmen, know that the mission that we're doing is affecting our nation's operations and our securities both domestically and abroad. So the value that we received from Apex, the coaching, the hands-on approach, the templates, and the guidance as we've progressed, was invaluable to our success, not only for this product, but for the future of our company. So we really can't say enough about the team over at Apex and their help and the hand holding as we have progressed through it. So we appreciate it. And we look forward to working more with the military and for those that get to work with Apex as they build their companies and make their entrepreneurial dreams and the forces with our military more applicable.
Hello everyone, my name is Kyle Gillis and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Iconic Air, based out of my home state of West Virginia. Iconic Air is a software startup pioneering a new way of emissions monitoring and reporting across assets and facilities in the energy sector. When starting Iconic Air, we knew about SBIR grant funding that was available, but it's honestly just a very intimidating process to think about a long application and being an early stage startup, not really knowing if you have the best shot in the world. So we had no idea about filling out any of this information or how to go about doing it, but we gave it a shot anyway at the start of 2020. By right now, when I'm shooting this October 2020, we ended up being awarded a phase 1 and a phase 2 contract, which we're in the middle of right now. The technology that we're building, the Air Force, is a slight modification of what we sell today to the energy sector. Bioenvironmental engineers and industrial hygienists are spending the majority of their time collecting data from new innovative hardware from personnel out on the flight lines. This could be Air Force pilots or maintenance workers working on planes. And they're spending most of their time analyzing that data and creating reports, rather than solving the real issues that are at hand. The software that we're building would let them know when there's an issue and it will automate away the rest of the work. I would say that reaching out to the Apex team was the single best decision that we've made as a company thus far. It was our senior year of school at West Virginia University, and we were looking for every possible way to fund the startup post-graduation. And that's when our corporate relations team at West Virginia introduced us to Apex. And it just blew our mind in terms of how effective Apex was as a catalyst, moving us towards the AFWorks program, educating us around the application process, helping us successfully execute on our phase 1 contract, and then submitting a successful phase 2 proposal. It felt like somebody was in our corner the entire time. To make it simple, without Apex, we would have had to go out and raise investor money before we were ready for it. But now, we were able to go out and hire 3 full-time developers and are receiving regular inquiries around developing our software solution for different DoD and industry needs.
Hi, my name is Jamie Bowerman. I'm the founder of Bower Bags. We're located in Arlington, Virginia, and we create a category called Military Modular, where we help support the warfighter by helping to manage their weight loads ergonomically. Bower Bags has been fortunate enough to be the recipient of a phase 1 SBIR and a phase 2. We had never been the recipient before, tried for about 5 or 6 years, and then had a nice breakthrough when the Air Force sort of switched the paradigm of the dual-use open innovation topic. We had traction in the past with backpacks, and when pitching the backpacks, we created a clipping system that lets you move your pockets around more ergonomically. Folks in the military would come up afterwards and say, hey, I like the backpacks, but can I get some of those clips? And that kind of became the big light bulb aha moment. It wasn't really a clean one-to-one, so historically, when talking with program managers, a lot of times it was, hey, this could be cool. We have these solicitations out, try to tuck it in over here, over there. And so the dual use flip became a really nice way to get technology that had some commercial traction bring it into the DoD and help develop it inside of it. So super grateful for that. So our technology is actually currently being developed in the phase 2. It is a modular quick release clipping system that allows you to rapidly and securely alter your weight loads anywhere on your flak vest, your rig, on your backpack, and we're exploring the vehicle attachments as we speak and coming out with some really great stuff, testing it currently. Our primary focus was helping on support the female warfighter manage weight loads more ergonomically, because just by the numbers, the injury rates are so much higher in physical training, 2 to 3 times that of their male counterparts. All the NIH studies show that it has nothing to do with gender. It's just the amount of the weight load carried and then more time for preparation for PT. But that was a big one that we called out because there are a lot of studies that indicated 3 out of 4 soldiers will suffer from lower back pain, both severe and moderate. It's the leading injury of war. And so kind of knowing that and knowing that NIH cited this as it was the weight loads worn that were causing these issues, and the chronic cost of chronic pain care can be up to $2 million per soldier, it seemed like an appropriate place to create a new kind of system that can work with all the existing equipment. Bowerbag's unique value proposition is that it's 36 times faster than the existing MOLLE system, and you don't have to change any of your equipment to use it. It works in conjunction with the MOLLE system, and it lets you move your weight loads rapidly on the flying and take the time down to set up one's rig, flak vest, backpack from up to an hour down to about 1 or 2 minutes. So how was I introduced to the Tech Warrior program? That's a great question. It's kind of funny. I would go to all of the places where you might be able to meet DoD program managers. So events like Tech Connect or anything locally, different CIBR events. I would actually dress up like this, go to these events where you only get 1 or 2 minutes to talk to someone, and do this very quickly, just to make the most use of the time. And it took 2 separate people pointing me to the same place, and then I had to wait about 8 or 9 months before there was another event for you to get in and go to Tech Warrior. But I'll never forget my first call with Director John Matecki, wonderful human being. When I describe my technology over the phone, I get this a lot. I said, I don't know if this would fit or how to use it, but sure, come on, and we'll beat it up for you. And that was about 1.5 years ago. Since then, we've done a CIBR phase 1. We're on our CIBR phase 2, developing the technology every day for the warfighter and getting some great feedback. So without Tech Warrior, this system would never see the light of day. Within DoD, I think I can't imagine how it would go any other way. Truly, when you're at something for half a decade and you hear no 1,000 times, it can get a little hard to go, why do I keep kind of going this route? So Tech Warrior was a game changer for me, for Bowerbags, for the company, and what we think it can do for the warfighter.
Nick Ripplinger, I'm the president of Battlesight Technologies, headquartered in Dayton, Ohio. We're a rapid innovation and commercialization firm in support of the warfighter. Battlesight's been participating in the Air Force SBIR and STTR process over the last 3 years. We have projects in various stages and various phases, all in support of developing these products for the warfighter. Battlesight focuses on infrared communication, light that can't be seen with the naked eye and only visible through night vision goggles. This provides our DoD customers across all branches the ability to covertly communicate in a peer-near-peer environment. We got connected to the Tech Warrior program through the Air Force SBIR program office, and through the years of participating with them and the interest that they've taken in our technology really laid the foundation for us to have the commercial success that we have, which kept us wanting to engage and kind of give back to the rest of the larger Tech Warrior community. Working with Tech Warrior has been great from a Battlesight perspective. They've opened a lot of doors with end users, and they really brought those warfighters into our development cycle, ensuring that we develop products that actually meet the warfighter's need and not just something that's going to sit in a tough box on the deployment. Tech Warrior is really what you make of it. If you show up and you're engaging both with the small businesses, the Air Force SBIR, STTR office, and the end users, there's going to be magic that comes from it.
Hello, my name is Kelly Kernan, and I'm the Air Force CIBR SITR Program Chief Technology Officer. My job is to drive the effort to seed small businesses so we can put new and future technologies into the hands of Air Force warfighters. We've just heard about the impact of companies and individuals experienced due to programs like the ones provided by Apex and Tech Warrior. Let's learn more, and I'll introduce today's panelist. Dave Nestick is the STTR Director at Apex. That Apex cultivates innovation by looking through research enterprises for the Air Force. And John Matecki, Director of Training and Exercise for Tech Warrior Enterprise, puts small business technologies in the hands of experienced warfighters and first responders during training events and immersive simulations. Welcome. So let's start by understanding how your organizations help. Dave, both companies mentioned the APEX process. Please tell us what companies can expect with the APEX process.
Thanks, Kelly. Yes, so what happens when a pre-solicitation hits the street, when it's released by the Air Force, we open up a couple of channels for assistance. One is a team matchmaking where people can go to the site, you hit a link, and you fill out a form and say, I need a partner. So you might be a university researcher and you need an industry partner because you want to go for an STTR, or you might be an industry that needs an academic partner for an STTR, or you might just need somebody to help fill a gap in technology in your proposal. So in the team matchmaking link, you fill out what it is you bring to the table as far as a technology, what you need in a partner, and which solicitation opportunity you're looking at. We anonymize that information, and then we send it back out through our network so that we can link people up. And this has been very successful at putting people together that previously didn't know each other, and in collaborative efforts to go after proposals. We then also open up a process that we call our pre-award support for solicitation guidance. And we put together a cohort for people who want to be in the cohort. And this is another link on the website that you go and you fill out a form and say what you're interested in, which topic you're interested in. And we will assign a consultant one-on-one. We have 8 of us that are working to support companies through the solicitation process. And we assist with questions and issues and just what's the process of putting together a proposal? What can you expect? We have solicitation briefings that we do, and the people in the cohort are invited to the solicitation briefings, and they're specific to your proposal build. So we'll cover topics like what's the structure of the Air Force so that you understand, the Air Force structure and the different PEOs and TEO and some of the different terminology. We'll have one on the cost volume. We'll have one on commercialization strategy and commercial potential and what you should, what's expected in those sections. And then we'll have something on pitch decks, and tips and, for doing a good impactful pitch deck. So that's the kind of support that we provide in the pre-award solicitation period. And then we also have support for while you're going through contracting, and then phase 1 to phase 3 as well.
Thanks, Dave. So Dave, I'm sure there's a lot of people wondering, what are the biggest gaps you see between what is required to be successful as a STTR company and where firms are when they come into the process? Yeah,
well, one of the things that we really want to focus on with the new way that the Air Force program is working is just an understanding of, this is very needs-based now. So you really need to know what the structure of the Air Force is. You need to know the customer. And even if you don't have a personal contact, you should be able to identify where within the Air Force there could be a need for what you're proposing. And that's probably the hardest thing to understand, for a new company coming into the process. It's that, and we spend a lot of time, coaching people and consulting people on, look, just read the solicitation, read it multiple times. While you're putting your proposal together, go back and read the solicitation again, because we find, and even an experienced proposal writer that's going through this you'll get your mind set in a direction of what you want to propose. And if a week or two goes by, you find that you drift. And if you don't go back to the proposal, you could be drifting into non-responsive territory. So we always consult on referring back to the solicitation, answering questions by looking deeper into the solicitation, and then just making sure you understand your customer and your customer needs.
Well, thanks, Dave. All right, John, Tech Warrior. Tech Warrior is so exciting. It introduces real world testing for product developers. What makes Tech Warrior Enterprise so unique?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking that, Kelly. And then thanks everybody for having us be here to share our story with you guys. So there's several things that make Tech Warrior very unique. We actually tailor events towards you, the small businesses. So a perfect example of that is if you're trying to gather data on, we'll keep it very simple, of a new handcuff, and you're looking at how does the latch system work when it comes in contact with the rest of a possible suspect. It only makes sense not only to have someone who has hands and wrists for you to put the handcuffs on, so tailored towards you to get that data, but also what we want to do is, and what makes us very unique is, we bring in that end user, that's your targeted customer. So it doesn't really make sense to go to a hospital and have a nurse try to use these handcuffs because, I mean, I know we live in a very odd world in 2020, but most nurses probably aren't slapping handcuffs on. So we should probably talk to local law enforcement or military police. So we bring in those end users that you get to sit down with, and all of this is free of charge, paid for by the Air Force SBIR STTR office, so that you can come in and use our services. Our staff alone has over 100 years of combined military service, some still in reserve capacity, others like myself with 20 years of military experience. So we bring our own subject matter experts, and then we also try to reach into that field that fits your needs. So those are the things that make us very unique. And we do that through two approaches. One is a one-on-one. So we can sit down with you. We can do from conceptual talk of, hey, I wanted to do this device. I'm thinking about putting it here, and we say, well, here's why you can't, so that you're not going down an avenue. You know, you don't want to go 2 blocks down the street west when you should have been going east. So now you got to come back those 2 blocks. So we do that through our Tech Connect as a one-on-one, can be tailored for as long or as short as needed. And then our big one, as you see over my left shoulder here, is a Tech Warrior Ops. This is where we bring in multiple companies, multiple users, and put you in a space to where maybe Joe from working with a different company has something that could potentially make his product better and your product better to make a mega product. So our end goal is to make sure that we just get the good products out to the men and women who are putting their lives on the line to keep our country free.
That's so exciting, John. John, what would you say are the characteristics of companies that succeed in your program?
So it's kind of, 2020 is a very unique year. And from what we're seeing, it's driving a little bit deeper with this challenge of us doing this. This virtual thing's not for everybody, and it's got its challenges. But what we see is it's the hungry dog runs the fastest. So there are some companies that want to get quick wins and just want a handout, basically, that are willing to show up and just want to be receiving funding. And you'll see they'll get a little bit of traction, but they'll never make it in the end game. Those that are willing to go out and do the work and have the meetings and talk to folks and talk to different partners and continue to knock on those doors and be told no over and over and over again are the ones that are going to go on to being multi-million dollar companies because they're hungry. And the other common denominator that these companies that succeed is their heart's in it. All the companies that we've seen and the 2 that we had as our success stories earlier, and then that you'll talk to later today in a different panel, they don't necessarily care about the bottom line. Well, yes, that's important. They want to get rich because this is America. What they really care about, and if you dig into their heart, they care about the men and women who are out there putting their lives on the line for us to stay safe. And that too includes not just our military, but inside of that, our law enforcement and first responders that are out there putting their butts out, literally day to day, to keep us safe. Our doctors that are every first responder, to make sure that they have the best tools to do their job. And ultimately, no one wants to go to war. Give them the tools to prevent wars. And if it comes down to going to war, to be able to destroy our enemies without even blinking an eye. So those are the biggest things that we've seen that has been successful for companies of that drive and their heart in the right spot.
Thanks, John. That's exciting for sure. So, Dave, What do you see as the characteristics of companies that succeed in your program when it comes to achieving a STTR award? I think you're muted, Dave.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I was just saying that I like what John said about the hungry dog runs the fastest. It's those companies that are coachable, that listen to the experienced people, that are the hungriest, the ones that really want to win. Those are the ones that have the good business development efforts. They have the good instincts to go after opportunity. So that's an initial element that I think is really kind of key. You gotta want to do this, and you got to understand that it's putting together a good proposal in this program and then being successful in the program after award, is effort, and it's part of your business strategy. You have to make it part of your business strategy, and that I think is the one of the biggest keys, along with just the basics of, look, you have to have the technical competency on board. You have to have the right partnerships. You have to be looking at your business as a whole and keeping your eye on what the long-term goal is, which is eventual commercialization or transition, either transition to the warfighter or a dual use application in the commercial marketplace. So you can't just be in it for the initial money and for the, what you're going to get in your initial contract. You got to keep your eye on the it's got to be a long ball game for you. I think you're muted now, Kelly.
Oh, sorry. So Dave, thanks a lot. So these companies that do succeed, the companies that you see being awarded STTRs, how do you see them advancing Air Force capability?
Well, what's really neat about the program now is the way that you in order to get in order to get into phase one, you have to be addressing an Air Force need, and you got to be able to articulate that, why you think that's a need. Even if you don't have a conversation with somebody within the Air Force, you have some evidence that there is an Air Force need, and you know who it is you have to talk to. So if you get a phase one award, you then connect directly with who could be an end user, or who and how the acquisition process works, so that you understand that and you can transition your project, your proposal and your project into a usable product for an actual end user application within the Air Force. So to me, I think that's been a phenomenal and great change in the way the process works. I mean, I go back in SBIR way back to the early days, I hate to say, but this really connects, this really now connects with an application within, the Air Force in a way that it hasn't before. So.
Thanks, Dave. John, the Tech Warrior Enterprise is a national program. How do companies get started with Tech Warrior Enterprise?
So the easiest way to get involved with Tech Warrior Enterprise is to go to our website, twenterprise.org. As events come up, we'll publish them there. The other thing to do to get involved is we've been networking with several small business development centers across the country. Most of them are tied into what we're doing. So if you're looking for a starting point, obviously the website's the easiest. And hopefully the website will get an overhaul. It's very basic right now, because that's the way we like to keep things. We don't like long processes. We want to make sure things are very simple. And the process to be involved in a Tech Warrior is literally answering 10 questions. We ask for you to submit a quad chart and a white paper. And the reason that we ask for those things is we want to set you up for success. Because when you're pitching to the tech scouts that we bring into our events, those are the first things they're going to ask for if they're interested in it. They're going to use an acronym called QUICK-B. So they're going to want your quad chart. They're going to want a 10-page informational paper. And then you're going to want no more than 10 slides on your widget. And then they're going to want your bluff. And the bluff is very simple, your bottom line up front. And then they're also going to want to know who you're working with. So when you get in, we try to set it up to where I don't want you to have to spend time on recreating these things when we want you to already have that front loaded, so that you can sit down with these subject matter experts to get you that feedback to make that device the most amazing possible.
Thanks, John. John, why don't you tell us about your most recent, you had a really big event in the Midwest, I think. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we were supposed to do one in the Midwest, but this virus crept in. So the Tech Warrior Enterprise has evolved. I've been very fortunate and very blessed to have been with the enterprise since its inception, December of 2017. So with that, we've had a lot of major changes. COVID being the biggest, of putting us in these little box windows that you see on your screen and talking miles away from each other. So that's been the biggest challenge. So as soon as COVID hit, President of the United States locked us down, and within a week, we were up and running with virtual education sessions with multiple partners across that expanded across the DoD. So that was something new that we introduced to keep things going during the height of the pandemic. And then two of the newest things that we've actually introduced, and we're still trying to get our feet under us because no one steps up to the plate the very first time and hits a home run. Most Major League Baseball players get in there and the excitement overwhelms them and they strike out. So we didn't necessarily strike out. We got on base and we're looking to run around and get a home run at some point. But we've recently ventured just in early October. We partnered with AFRL-RI, the Information Directorate out of Rome Laboratories, to do our first ever cyber ops. In that, we had 8 companies from 2 separate areas that were hand selected by subject matter experts in the cyber community. So we had those folks that have a very good potential with the feedback that they got to move forward and get into the warfighter's hands. The other exciting one that we did that we're still trying to figure out how to test, because as we see as of Saturday, it's becoming bigger and bigger. We just launched into space Saturday. We're now celebrating 1 year of the Space Force. So we were able to partner with the Catalyst Accelerator campus out of Colorado Springs to help them with we tried to introduce a demonstration performance type inside of their space event. So now we're in cyberspace and we're in space. And our last event that we just concluded a couple of weeks ago, at the end of October, we had over 56 companies from across this great country of ours attend a virtual event. It was tactical and medical in nature. They came in, they got the ability to pitch to subject matter experts in either field. They were able to pitch to an open audience to get their stuff out, industry across Air Force, DoD. And then they also got to pitch to those tech scouts that I talked about. And those tech scouts are really the biggest addition that we've added besides these events. Because for those of you that may have seen a few months ago when President Trump was in Philadelphia and he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out that cardboard testing device, that came through a tech scout. And what we didn't realize was inadvertently with some of the stuff that we were sending to our tech scouts, we were technically on the coronavirus task force by sending some of those technologies up. So those are really exciting things that are happening, and we're looking for, I think I can officially say this. If not, I'll get in trouble and it'll be okay. We've got stability for the next year. We just won a major contract and we're moving forward, and there's going to be, barring major events, which we know 2020's kind of put us in a new box, but we developed, 2021 is going to be explosive. The word Tech Warrior is going to be on everyone's tongues. People are going to be lining up to be part of our events because we're going to be breaking so many glass ceilings, so many barriers that there's no option is not on the table right now, the things that we can do. So what we want to do is we want to support you, the small business, and ultimately that men and women that's out on that front line that's defending this great country of ours to keep this the greatest country in the world.
Thanks, John. So Dave, in order to get firms ready to bring their wicked cool technologies to John's events, what kind of training does Apex offer and what does your network look like?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, we work closely with Tech Warrior because as we see companies that kind of fit what programs they're putting together, I'll go back and forth with John and at times we've offered, training to some of the companies through their program as well. But it's just having that knowledge of what they're doing and what their program's about that enables us to identify companies that align with what they're doing also. So, a lot of the companies that we work with, they're in earlier they're in developmental stages where they're also looking to raise funding and get investment funding as well as customers, and they need to test and prototype their products and get feedback. So introducing them to Tech Warrior when they're at that stage where they can actually provide some kind of demonstration, is a great pathway, for them to get in front of people who can give them that feedback.
Can I piggyback off of that? So that's very, Dave said some amazing things of, hey, we're both on the same team. We both fall underneath the same parent company, and we both have the same drive to support those small businesses to get their stuff to the warfighter. But it is amazing. Today at 4 o'clock, hopefully we're supposed to be talking to a small business that has attended our events that's now looking to partner with that education piece. So as that develops, being able to point them to Dave to get those pointers of how to work those relationships and not have to walk across a minefield, that they have Dave there that's able to, he's already swept that lane to say, you step here, it's safe. If you step there, it's not safe. Here's some recommendations. So being able to point them that they're not out on this island and it's a journey that someone's going to help. While we're not going to carry them, we'll hold their hand and drag them at some point. But it's good to be able to go, hey, talk to Dave here, talk to the SBDC over here. That it's an approach to where it makes them feel like they're just not alone.
Thanks, John. So Dave, do you have, can you explain to us like different courses that you offer through Apex?
Well, Apex is more than just, what we do. We are putting together a online training video series that enables people to go in and see, different informational videos that are pertinent and apply to not just the Air Force processes, but also just some general business things that you should know going into an SBIR or STTR, world. So there's that. And then what we do also with our outreach function. So we have an outreach function, we have process navigation, which I work with, and we have a tech pull group, which is building that network inside, the Air Force community. But we'll do these foundational webinars with our outreach team, where we'll take an overall. They're foundational in that they provide some of the basic information that you need to get into the SBIR STTR game. Just information on the program, a bit about its history, what your eligibility requirements are, and then we'll go into the DoD program itself specifically. And then we'll go into the Air Force program and take a deeper dive into that and what it takes to put a proposal together. So we try to do those before the pre-solicitation periods open up, just to try to warm people up and get their minds around, this solicitation is going to be coming out. And then we'll re-engage when the solicitations are in the pre-solicitation phase and they actually hit the street. And then we start putting together those training cohorts in order to let them know and to train them up on what makes a good proposal. I like to say that our job, is to make the Air Force's job harder to choose winners, because we want good proposals coming in. We want the Air Force to get better proposals. That's what our goal is, because that's what the Air Force wants out of us, is to find good technologies and help them get into the system so that they can expand the research enterprise across the United States.
Thanks, Dave. All right, let's see if we have any questions. Oh, here's one. What is your advice for researchers that are in love with their technology but might not be business ready? I'll send that one to Dave first.
Well, there's most researchers, if you're talking a university researcher, there are most of the major universities, the R1 and the R2 universities will have some kind of tech transfer or commercialization group that you can engage with. And they can help find, maybe a business partner that, if you should want to spin out a company. Otherwise, you can always partner with a company that seems to be in that marketplace, that has the channels and the industry familiarity with the technology that you're working on, and they can help guide the technology, to markets that would have a need for it. But we focus on, I mean, a lot of what we do in not just Apex, but in some of our other programs is to work with researchers to understand needs-based research versus research for just research's sake. So there are programs for that. There are programs that support research just for basic knowledge. But a lot of what we work in is research that's needs based. So I mean, at some points we have to direct people and say, look, maybe there's a better program for you. Because right now what you have to be doing is you have to be developing something that fits a need. Because we're very commercialization oriented.
Yes, Dave, let me add from my point of view, because I have conversations with many researchers who want to figure out how to get started in STTR. My main advice, as you said, is to seek out their university or research institutes entrepreneurial office, but also just to be brave about it, right? So it's not that much effort to try to, instead of going to work for someone with the research that you've been doing, when you graduate from college, but to instead go into business for yourself. There is all kinds of help. We've seen Dave's program, the university programs, John's program to bring visibility to what's being done. So mostly my advice is always to be brave, which I think feeds to one of John's earlier statements. Okay, so let's see here. Dave, can you tell us about a firm that you worked with who were successful, and maybe how some of the techniques that you teach were put to work by this firm that led to their success?
Well, I think that there was a couple of videos that showed that earlier. I mean, I like pointing out Kyle's done a great job. I mean, when we engaged with them early on, they were not even familiar with SBIR and STTR. So we brought him through the program. We schooled him up on that. We assisted with some reviews of his proposal before he sent it in to give him some tips and stuff. And then, throughout the process of phase one, we would meet on a weekly basis or on an as-needed basis, just to help, guide through, the process, so that, it could be kind of daunting when you have certain requirements and deliverables, and it's the first time through, and just having someone to talk to that's been there before is comforting and gives you more confidence going through the program and being more successful. So, we helped all the way through to, his recent, phase two success. And, so I bring him up as an example. There are others. I mean, we had 130 companies in our cohort, last time, and they're going through review now. So they just, it just ended before, and there's always somebody in these cohorts that is new to the program and new to the process, hasn't submitted before, and we give them that experience of here's how it works. Here's where the mailman must be here, Kelly. So anyhow, I mean, we have a number of examples. I mean, there was a company just the other day that actually we found them through our outreach efforts. It was a connection that I had with another government organization that introduced me to this company that was also associated with the university that we work with. And they had done a lot of work for the Navy, and they had products that they were selling to the Navy and the Defense Missile Agency, and they had no connections at the Air Force, but they knew that their stuff that they were producing would have application in Air Force equipment and needs. So, I identified them immediately. I met with them. I got our tech pull group involved. They met with them. There's now meetings set up, to introduce them to people within the Air Force that can then get them to those end users that will end up, I'm fairly confident they'll end up, in a phase three purchases, or after getting a direct to phase two.
Thanks, Dave. John, can you tell us a story about, I know there's a couple of technologies that have come through Tech Warrior that started with a different service and ended up with the Air Force or vice versa. There's a couple of really nice stories along those lines.
There's several stories of that. One that I can think of was a textile new uniform product that was flame resistant, that was funded by the United States Army, and they had reached the end of their phase 2, and the Army didn't want to continue with it because they had gone a different direction, but it had applicability to the Air Force, so they were able to transfer and do a phase 2 plus up for that to continue that product. Going back to the research, I think a great story of research going only so far to where a business had to come in was Nick Ripplinger from Battlesite Technology. The laboratory at AFRL had created this glow-in-the-dark writing utensil. It was only able to take it to the 50-yard line, where Mr. Ripplinger came in and saw the ability to take that and pick that ball up from the 50, put his small business and put a small business expertise team together of driving it the rest of the way to get that touchdown. So there's a lot of great examples. If you're going back to the 2 questions ago, the person with research but don't have a small business, there's so many different networks out there. Dave pointed out some great ones. Look at your small business development center in your local area. I can tell you from experience, getting an MBA is not the most difficult thing in the world to put the knowledge in your head of how to run a small business. I'm a simple person, those that know me, and not the most intelligent guy in the room. But right now, I'm a couple of weeks away from having my MBA with a 3.7 GPA. So I can do it. If you've done research, there's no reason that you can't put that business knowledge together. It's simple. And then it goes back to the previous statement that I've said. If you're a hungry dog, you're going to run as fast as possible. You will not let your dream fail because you're that hungry. As long as you have that hunger, drive, and passion, you will catch whatever it is you're seeking, and you'll be successful. Don't let obstacles like I don't have business knowledge be the thing that kills your dream. Reach out to one of these great folks. Reach out to somebody that will point you in the right direction so that you can achieve your dream and ultimately get your device into a warfighter's hand and protect this great country of ours.
Well, thanks, John. I think I'll finish up here by talking about another opportunity that we have seen used not as much as it could be. And that is that some firms or some individuals are very technology minded. They'd like to get into this arena, but they don't have technology that's ready to go. I'd like to point out that there are Air Force patents and other federal agency patents that are available for licensing. And we have a whole group in our office here at the Small Business to deal with technology transfer. So if you're sitting out there and you have a business, but you don't have a technology that fits, or you're just an entrepreneur, but again, you're not quite sure what would be necessary, there are patents that have been developed, a lot of them at AFRL, which means that they were at one point in time a need of the Air Force and probably still are. And these patents are available for licensing, and you might want to explore that angle. Well, I think we've come to the end of our time. Thank you, John, and thank you, Dave, and I'm sorry my phone is ringing. And it's been so exciting to talk to you both about STTR and how people can be prepared and then how they can show off their technologies. Thank you very much.